A very good evening. Welcome to Premier League Live this Tuesday evening as we kick off a full jam-packed midweek of Premier League action. All 10 games will have updates and coverage of here on LFS across the week. Our feature game tonight is towards the bottom of the Premier League table as 17th placed Nottingham Forest head to 18th placed West Ham United. 4 points separate them coming into tonight's game, but it could be very different come at the end of play tonight. Also this week, 8 games taking place tomorrow night, including our feature game as Manchester City host Brighton, but games Spurs away to Bournemouth, Brentford hosting Sunderland, Palace against Villa, Wolves' trip to Everton, Chelsea and Fulham meeting in a London derby with Chelsea under their new boss Liam Rossinier, Burnley taking on Manchester United with Darren Fletcher in interim charge, and Newcastle against Leeds. And we round off the midweek action as the league leaders Arsenal take on the current holders of the Premier League in Liverpool. That's on Thursday night in North London. But busy this midweek in the Premier League, and these two teams we watched tonight, West Ham and Nottingham Forest, two sides within much need of a victory as of recent. Both lost quite comfortably at the weekend to surprising circumstances, certainly in West Ham's form. But in terms of where they sit in the table, well, this is not pretty reading for either of these two clubs at the moment. West Ham United 14 points from their 20 games so far this campaign. They sit 18th and 4 points adrift of safety. The side they face tonight are the team that are 17th, Nottingham Forest. They're 4 points clear of West Ham, but that could be either 1 point, 4 points or 7 points of a gap come the end of the evening. It would be a torrid night if West Ham were to lose. It would really be damning for all three teams towards the bottom of the table. Wolves look like they're already gone, but they're only 12 points behind. Burnley are 6 points adrift of safety, and then Leeds and Bournemouth should be okay, but you never know, they could be dragged back into it. But that's the way it's shaping up at the moment coming into tonight's game. And when two teams at the bottom face each other, it can turn one of two ways. It can turn into a completely terrible game to watch and a 0-0 draw because they're both afraid to lose, or it could turn into one of those games where you never really know what's going to happen and twists and turns come out of nowhere. We will see what comes of this one tonight. Let's have a look at the two teams then, because there are interesting changes for both teams, starting with West Ham United. Alphonse Areola starts in goal. That back four of Kyle Walker-Peters, Jean-Claude Todibo, Konstantinos Mavropanos and Ollie Scarles at left back. In midfield, Mateus Fernandes alongside Thomas Soucek. Lucas Paquetá returns in the 10 from injury as Crescencio Somerville off the left and Jared Bowen, the captain, on the right. A new signing, Tati Castellanos, starts up front for West Ham. No Fulkrug and no Wilson tonight. Hermanson, Kilman, Myers, Rodriguez, Magassa, Potts, Kante, Earthy and Felipe all on the bench there for West Ham. For Nottingham Forest, their defeat to Aston Villa was a real heartbreaking one at Villa Park at the weekend, but Matt Sells returns to goal with John Victor dropped out of that one, and some big mistakes from him and an injury as well sees him out of the team altogether. Ola Aina at right back, Milinkovic and Murillo continue as centre backs with Nico Williams at left back, Dominguez and Anderson in midfield with Gibbs White in the 10, Hudson-Odoi off the left, Hutchinson off the right, and Igor Jesus, who's got some goals in his locker this season in the Premier League. He's certainly up there in the tally form, but can he help Nottingham Forest to a big result tonight on the road? On the bench, Gunn, Morato, Abbott, Savona, Louise, McAtee, Bakwa, Awonyi and Kale Mwendo. Two sides, as I said, in desperate need of results and points, and certainly improved performances to boot. Two managers maybe under a little bit of pressure, Sean Dyche and Nuno Espirito Santo. The last time these two met, Nuno was in the other dugout and he lost by 3-0. They lost 3-0 to Wolves at the weekend. He hopes that doesn't repeat itself tonight. Kick-off in East London between West Ham United and Nottingham Forest is next. A very good evening. Welcome to Premier League Live for our first game of 3 live watch-along commentaries this midweek, and certainly 3 different games of very different contexts coming up this midweek here in LFS. And of course we'll have all the coverage of all 8 games taking place tomorrow night, but this one a very intriguing battle to get us underway. Two sides with a lot of passion and needing a lot of points at the moment between them. Certainly a thread of being cut adrift of those above them, and both need a massive result this evening. West Ham in their home strip of claret shirts, white shorts, white socks, and Nottingham Forest in their away strip tonight of white shirts, navy shorts and navy socks. As we get underway at the London Stadium, a game that means so much and will probably by the end of the season be looked back upon as the game that maybe turned the tide for one and turned it against the other. We'll see what way either of these two teams can come away with a result tonight if they can. Gibbs White trying to work it down the left early for Forest. Trying to get themselves into the box quickly here. Jesus trying to string on the back of Mavropanos. He's got help. It's a deep ball into the area. Headed away at the back post. Not very far though. Olaina keeps the pressure on. Well, one thing that was kind of mentioned before this game was how kind of both managers not really under pressure, but in a sense in real need of a confidence boosting result. West Ham have been pretty torrid this season defensively under 2 different managers. Of course, Graham Potter was in charge earlier in the campaign. He was actually in charge when West Ham last played Nottingham Forest, which they won 3-0. As here's Hutchinson trying to break into the area. Luckily, Somerville was back there for West Ham, but Nottingham Forest trying to take the game to the Hammers' early doors here. In a London stadium that there's more white seats than filled seats right now. Maybe that's a reflection of the feeling around the fan base at West Ham United. Dominguez out to the right hand side, finds Amari Hutchinson, cuts back onto his left. Looking for an option, lays it back out wide to Aina, and now back to Dominguez. Good start from Nottingham Forest as they try and work it down that right channel again from deep, but Somerville breaks away, and I link up with Paqueta. West Ham could be on the break here. Somerville, he's on his own, works it through to Castellanos on his debut. Trying to work an angle to shoot, was blocked well by the backtracking Elliot Anderson. Behind for the corner. Yeah, that was nice from West Ham, and Nottingham Forest coming out all guns blazing in the first 2 minutes, pushing up the field and leaving gaps in behind. Nicely won back by Somerville. Nice little 1-2 between him and Paqueta, and then a good ball in behind for Tati Castellanos, the debutant up front for the Hammers, and win themselves an early corner here, which Somerville will take off this left hand side. Options in the box, and that man, the Czechian Suchek, targeted as the ball whipped in, headed away by Jesus, who was back defending for Forest, and West Ham will let it run for the throw. There are major question marks, and I think the weekend's result has really just solidified how difficult a position and how bad a position West Ham could be in. You know, you can lose to anybody in the Premier League, we know that, but to lose to the team that hadn't won a game all season, had really struggled to score, never mind win games of football all season, and to not score against them, all of the whole result and game combined for West Ham was a complete disaster at the weekend, losing to Wolves and in the manner of which they did. I think it really kind of highlighted the fact that West Ham are in a lot more trouble than maybe people gave them credit for earlier in the season, and certainly in the last few weeks, starting to see why they are third bottom in the Premier League. Walker-Peters, nice direct ball to Castellanos, who tried to work it out wide to Paqueta, who out-muscles Nico Williams and does well there, Paqueta. Links up with Walker-Peters. Souček. Kyle Walker-Peters. Good football from West Ham as Walker-Peters' cutback was cleared at the edge of the area. And that was really good combination football and good from Lucas Paquetá. I mean, a real stalwart for this team. A real difference maker for West Ham. Certainly getting himself stuck in early doors. There's Nico Williams to take this throw. Deep in their own half here, Nottingham Forest. Williams down the line, cut out well by Souček and followed up by Castellanos, but unable to keep possession here, West Ham. As Matheus Fernandes wins it back. Scars down the line to Somerville, who's barged out of the way by Ola Aina, but that's going to be a free kick. Well, the result is a must. West Ham are without a win since a 3-2 victory over Burnley back in early November. The 8th of November was West Ham's last win. That's a total of 9 games without a victory in the Premier League. 5 of those have ended in defeat and 4 have ended in a draw. As Somerville hits from distance. Simple enough catch from Matt Sells. See it again. It's from this throw-in. Scarles bypasses the midfield. Castellanos drags the defender with him. Just leaves that little gap to the ball to bounce into the path of Somerville, who strikes from the edge of the area. Nice move from West Ham, but the strike from Crysencio Somerville straight down the throat of the Nottingham Forest goalkeeper. But 9 without a win for West Ham. And on that run, 3 of those 5 defeats have come at the London Stadium, albeit against Fulham, Aston Villa and Liverpool. But in terms of their away results, they've actually not had an awful away form, West Ham, considering the situation. They've actually only lost twice on the road in this run, and they've drawn the other 3 games on the road. So that's not an awful return, but again, when you're talking about bad form, without a win in 9 is bad no matter what way you look at it. And picking up 4 points out of a possible 27 is certainly relegation form, if not worse. And certainly worse than half the teams around you. In terms of Nottingham Forest, they've lost each of their last 4 Premier League games. Albeit they have played Manchester City and Aston Villa in that run, 2 of the teams are the league's top teams, but defeats to Fulham and to Everton on that run as well will be disappointing for Sean Dyche. Paquetá back to Ollie Scarles down the line. Nice link up by Castellanos, getting himself around a little bit here, the West Ham centre forward. Tati Castellanos, the Argentinian, 27 years old. He's joined West Ham for just over £25 million. Was signed officially just yesterday, according to the stats. He was at Lazio for the last 2.5 years. And is now the new West Ham centre forward. Much need of strength and depth further up the field, West Ham. Here's Callum Hudson-Odoi, works it inside to Elliot Anderson, who tries the cross. Away by Mavropanos, not very far though, as Anderson tries to keep it alive and works it out to Hudson-Odoi down the left. Williams on the overlap. Hudson-Odoi rolls it through into the path of Gibbs-White, cuts it back out to Williams. And now Hudson-Odoi trying to work their way in and around the edge of the area. Our Nottingham Forest trying to break their way through this West Ham team. We've got nearly everybody back in defence. Williams, right-footed delivery. Up and away by Mavropanos. Again, nicely held up by Igor Jesus. There's a forced it across and blocked, and actually bounced into the path of Somerville, who gives it away cheaply. A bit scrappy at the minute between these two. West Ham trying to stick to their shape and stay compact in and around the edge of their own box. Jean-Claude Todibo with that challenge. Nottingham Forest just trying to outmaneuver West Ham. At the minute, running into a lot of claret bodies. Ola Aina. Elliot Anderson goes for the early cross, away by Soucek. Again, completely crowding out their own penalty area at the minute, West Ham. Here's Hudson-Odoi. Has a run at Walker-Peters. Has to cut it back. Nico Williams will hit from distance. And that was a really good save by Alphonse Areola. And that was a really good effort from Nico Williams with his right foot. It was curling towards that top corner. It would have been some goal. And Alphonse Areola throws a right hand at it and has to make that save. Otherwise it's 1-0. Goes behind for the corner to Forest. But that is a great save by the West Ham stopper. As Amari Hutchinson will take the corner. Left footed delivery. Fizzed in away by Areola again. Shot by Williams. Is wide. Nico Williams. Two shots in the last minute for the Forest left back. This one much cleaner connection as well. On the half volley. And he completely volleys it well wide of the goal. The accuracy was nowhere near it on that one. Early threats to Alphonse Areola's goals. We see from behind the goal the angle. That is some save. Top class. And it was much needed, as I said. That was definitely going in. If Alphonse Areola didn't get his hand to that. And all that matters is for West Ham he did. And then there's no doubt that they'll need their goalkeeper tonight. It's actually the other team that's been worried about their goalkeeping situation as of the last few days. Nottingham Forest lost their goalkeeper Jean-Victor in the Aston Villa game, and Matt Sells back in the squad, back in the lineup after he was quite strangely dropped by Sean Dyche after playing so many consecutive games, and probably one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League last season, Matt Sells, but had fallen out of favour with Sean Dyche in quite strange circumstances, but back in the team tonight. And they're hoping if he is needed and called upon, he can come up with big saves like Alphonse Areola just has a few minutes ago for the opposing team. Here is Mavropanos. Looking for the switch ball. Scards has got space in the left as Amari Hutchinson does well to track back and waits for the heavy touch. Solly Scards battling there, and that's going to be a West Ham corner. That was good endeavour there from Ollie Scards. We'll see it again. Hutchinson thinks he's got this under control. He tries to spin past Scards, but Scards puts a foot in, comes back off Hutchinson and goes behind for the Hammers corner. A little bit wasteful there from Amari Hutchinson. Forest certainly not confident. 7 goals they conceded from corners, the second worst in the league, and there's another one. West Ham United take the advantage, and that is such a huge advantage for the team that start the night in the bottom 3 and want to really close that gap to their nearest rivals just above them, and they've given themselves an early gift of a chance to do so. I was literally saying as the ball was whipped in how poor Nottingham Forest have been from conceding from corners. 7 this season, the second worst in the Premier League. And it turns out a near post flick on from Thomas Soucek glanced off the head of Murillo and into the back of his own net. It will go down, I think, as an own goal possibly. I think it will do because he has the last touch here, Murillo. Yeah, he directs it past his own goalkeeper. Doesn't know much about it, but it is a West Ham goal nonetheless. Whatever way it comes, Nuno Espirito Santo, I'm sure, will be very pleased that his side have taken the lead so early in this game. West Ham 1, Nottingham Forest 0. Much needed. Souček's flick-on header coming off the head of the Forest centre-back Murillo. And that really could swing this into the favour of the home team. And when you're down at the bottom of the table, it doesn't matter how good the goal is or if it's a great goal. All that matters is that you find the net in whichever way you can, and sometimes you need a bit of luck, sometimes you need a bit of a helping hand. And Murillo certainly gave a helping head rather than a helping hand. West Ham United have that early advantage which they so desperately craved. There was feelings that the crowd could turn quickly on their team tonight at the London Stadium if they didn't get off to a quick start. They've had a bit of defending to do early, but they've responded well with a set piece so dangerous that Nottingham Forest couldn't stop it from going into their own net. And that's exactly what some can change things. And let's really show you what that means for the table. I will be able to do that in a moment for you, to show you what that means around the bottom of the table, because it is significant in how it can pan out for West Ham, this result tonight. So let's show you the bottom of the Premier League table. On the left hand side of your screen, West Ham would jump up 3 points as it stands to 17, and they would be just a point behind Nottingham Forest going into obviously next week's games in the Premier League. Of course, both sides will have a little bit of an FA Cup game at the weekend and then a rest next midweek ahead of huge games coming up next weekend. But if this result was to stay as it is, West Ham would cut the gap to just a solitary point and really within touching distance of Nottingham Forest come the end of this weekend. And that would be huge for them, because really, at the end of the day, it could become 3 from 4 at the bottom of the table there, because it looks like Leeds have got that little bit of a cushion. 4 points, the gap between Leeds and Forest. And then the rest of the teams, there's a bit of a cushion above Bournemouth. 4 points ahead of Bournemouth are Crystal Palace, so there's that gap forming further up the table. It just seems like if West Ham get the win tonight, it really would take the rest above them away, and really it would be a battle of 4 teams trying to fight for 1 place at the bottom of the table. A long way to go. Here's a nice ball into the box. Good response here from Forest as Jesus was dispossessed, and now he's given it away cheaply to West Ham, who are on the brick again. Here's Somerville. They want to foul, but they're going to play on. Here's Somerville breaking through, and he was well closed out by 2 Forest defenders. Ultimately, took them long enough to make a challenge. In the end, they did deny Crescencio Somerville a chance at goal there. Ian in the chat, thank you very much for joining us. As evening all, Forest are in big trouble. Well, they will be if they lose this one tonight. It will be 5 defeats in a row. It will be just 1 point above the relegation zone, and in real trouble of being in the relegation mire come the end of tonight's game. We talk all about, oh, that's a lovely ball in behind by Walker Peters. Finds Jared Bowen. Bowen with a cross. Castellanos not too far away from him. It's cleared away. Souček. Walker Peters. Now Bowen with the early cross. Castellanos with a, not a great touch, but he's helped it on to Souček. Now back to Bowen. They've got a bit between their teeth at the minute here, West Ham. Walker Peters down there. Outside, going for the low hard delivery away by Milenkovic. It is really at the moment Well, West Ham, although here come Nottingham Forest away. Gibbs White. Options ahead of him if he can find one. Gibbs White works it back outside to Hudson-Odoi. West Ham flood everybody back. Finding the space for Dominguez now. Into the area. Dominguez is crossed. Too high for Igor Jesus. He will keep it alive though. Aina. But end to end at the minute. Here's Gibbs White. Fakes the cross, but keeps the ball. Works it back to Hutchinson, who will loft it in. Up and away by Mavropanos. And now Forest have got a little bit of energy. Hudson-Odoi's cross deflected. Hutchinson couldn't get anything on it and it's cleared away by Scarles at the back post. West Ham fighting for their lives at either end of the pitch here. Forest have dominated early possession, 61% of the ball so far for the visitors, but West Ham had 3 shots to Forest 2, both with a shot on target. But one keeper made a big save, the other didn't. That's probably what it comes down to at the moment, as Ola Aina tries the cross, blocked. Put out for a throw-in by the backtracking Crescencio Somerville. That's Hudson-Odoi. Gibbs White there. Couldn't keep that ball alive, but he will get the throw. 20 minutes gone at the London Stadium. West Ham 1, Nottingham Forest 0. The own goal from Murillo separating the two teams. As Ola Aina will go for the long throw into the box. Away by Fernandez and cleared further by Castellanos, but it's no out ball there for West Ham. All the way back to Murillo. Now Williams back to Murillo again. He works it back to his goalkeeper and Matt Sells. Anderson. Dropping deeper to try and get some more of the balls. He works it out wide to Hutchinson. Forest on the chase now for that equalising goal. Murillo looking for the switch. Beautifully taken in by Ola Aina. Feeds it in behind. Jesus leaves it. Holding it up was Hutchinson. Aina. Hutchinson couldn't quite keep it alive there. It's again West Ham clear, but only as far as Nicolas Dominguez, who keeps it in play. A little bit better from Forest. That's nice from Murillo. Now finds Hudson-Odoi, who will shoot. Off balance, off target. Goal kick. Yeah, good play from Forest initially, but just impatient from Callum Hudson-Odoi. Tried to get the glory and ended up coming away with a rose edge shot from the edge of the area. Forest trying to work it centrally, but again West Ham are able to reclaim the possession, and not for very long though. It's just a battle of either side are really keeping the ball well enough at the moment. West Ham are looking to complete their first league double over Nottingham Forest since the 2011-12 in the Championship, and their first in the top flight since 1968-69 season. It's the last time West Ham did the league double in the top flight over Nottingham Forest, and they are going in the right direction based on the early play here. Halfway through the first half, and they lead by a goal to nil. This could be a night as well that Nottingham Forest really solidify their claim of being a relegation threatened team from a team that was high flying last season, kissing European football all the way through the campaign. Were one of the league's best teams, certainly in terms of performance, one of the league's best performing teams. Hudson-Odoi's ball in, bounces back to Igor Jesus, who couldn't make anything of it as Ola Aina tries to work an angle. to the edge of the area. Feeds it back to Jesus, who stayed wide. Cross was stopped in its tracks by Oliver Scarles, and Mateus Fernandez comfortable with the ball in the edge of his own area. Mavropanos with a long clearance, trying to find Jared Bowen. Nico Williams did well to make sure there was no threat and goes out for a Forest throw. Walker Peters to take the throw in. Nice little 1-2 with Paqueta. All the way back for West Ham. He need a bit of calm in the game at the moment. Just to settle a little bit. Haven't had much of the ball and just need to settle a little bit more and grow into this 1-goal lead. Not always look under constant threat. Here's Jean-Claude Todibo. Finds to Scarles, back to Todibo. All the way back to Areola. And so far, so good for West Ham United. A much needed better performance than the one that was witnessed at the weekend. Certainly in recent weeks. More of a common theme to see West Ham down in the dumps. That's a ball in behind for Bowen. Nicely covered by Murillo, although he's not going to deny the corner, I think, there. Jared Bowen did well to hound on the pressure for that, and does win a corner for West Ham. Yes, those balls in behind. Nice ball by Walker Peters. Measures it well as Bowen just tries to stretch across to it. Nico Williams can't stop it, and neither can Murillo. Can't stop it from going for a corner on that right hand side. There's a man who played a key role in the opening goal. Whipped in again, it comes. Thrown away by Sells. A shot from range by Mateus Fernandez was blocked. Scarles works it back wide. Paqueta's deep delivery. Castellanos was working his way in, but Matt Sells had his eyes on it. Knew where it was going and gathered it comfortably. Right to Gibbs White now, switching it to Nico Williams. Down the line it goes to Hudson-Odoi. He's got Scarles, who's out of position, but he's got Walker Peters there too. Feeds it back to Gibbs White. With Igor Jesus, but not quite linking it up there as Dominguez flips it in. Jesus tried to head it across, but Todibo got rid. And Sells has to do the same up the other way. He really can't sustain pressure on West Ham at the moment here. Nottingham Forest, I have to say, a couple of their possessions just kind of stalled at the edge of the area of West Ham. Not really able to penetrate through that 18-yard box at the minute. Although they win it nicely here, and that's where they're getting the joy here, West Ham. Here's Castellanos, he's got Crysencio Somerville. Just slightly overruns him. Too much on that ball. Better ball, and it would have been a great opportunity for West Ham to try and double their lead. Here's Fernandez to keep it alive. Bowen into the path of Somerville, in the pocket of space. Finds it to Souček, out wide it goes. Walker Peters now back to Souček, who's on the right flank. He lofts it in. Too high for Somerville and caught by Castellanos, but didn't catch it cleanly. And Forest could scramble away, but West Ham smelling blood again. They're piling on the pressure once more. Todibo. Scarles. Back to Jean-Claude Todibo. Looking for options, looking for ways to break forward, and has no options, has to work it back to his goalkeeper. This is the point. It seems like when they get a sniff of West Ham United, they're trying to pile on pressure as best they can, and that's much improved. Nottingham Forest at times look like they can hold the ball, but just really unable to create much with it. By that Nico Williams effort from range, they've barely created anything, Nottingham Forest, in the final third. West Ham's attack and threat looks stronger, but Forest might have a snap on the breakaway here. Ola Aina, nice ball into Jesus, who holds it up well, but he's got no one there to help him. Aina tries to beat past Todibo, but that's a big man to try and beat off there. And they can clear it away again, West Ham, with very little concern. As we edge closer to the half-hour mark here at the London Stadium, and West Ham leading by a goal to nil, and Forest are pushing up the field. They're trying to get themselves into good attacking areas, but they're just really struggling at this minute in time to create much in and around the area of West Ham. Had 12 crosses so far, Nottingham Forest, just the one of them that has been successful. West Ham 2 of 8, but certainly clearing the crosses and trying to pile the pressure on West Ham's defence. It just seems to be clearing those situations pretty comfortably. Another of the factors that so far West Ham have dominated the 1v1 battles. 63% of their ground duels they've won, 37 of Forest, so certainly edging it on that front. On the ground, tussling in one-on-one battles. In the air it's 50-50, but West Ham dominating those ground duels at the minute. And in games like this, when it can be close, it can be tight, it could come down to minuscule numbers and minuscule moments that could really make the difference. And we had a huge one when West Ham scored. We had another huge one whenever Areola had to make a wonderful save. Two moments that have swung this game in West Ham's favour as Walker Peters again tries that ball in behind for Jared Bowen. This time it was a low hit deep ball, but earlier it was bowled over the top of the Forest defence, so they're certainly trying to find a way for Jared Bowen to work in behind that back line of Nottingham Forest, as that long ball didn't quite find much joy out for the throw into Forest deep in their own half. Just unable to really shake off the energy of West Ham so far, Nottingham Forest. I'm sure Sean Dyche is figuring out ways of trying to get his team more control and more threat in the final third, and certainly more comfortable in moments when they're 1v1. So far so good for the hosts. There's another new signing for West Ham, Pablo, who's on the bench tonight. Pablo Felipe, I believe it is. Pablo Felipe, but he's on the bench tonight. Of course, Tati Castellanos, another new signing for West Ham. And he's the top end of the pitch for West Ham right now. West Ham with a free kick here, just inside the Forest half. It's Matez Fernandez who's over it. Lots of bodies thrown forward by West Ham here. Want to try and apply as much pressure on Forest as they can. Fernandez feeds it across to Mavropanos, who heads it back down. Scarles trying to work the angle with a cross, away by Williams. And back from Kyle Walker-Peters to his goalkeeper in Areola. And the link up with Paquetá, but the foul on Nico Williams is going to get Nottingham Forest a free kick. Well, it's been a lot of glum, dreary faces at West Ham and the London Stadium this season. A team that really has struggled. certainly struggled drastically. Just 2 wins from their 10 Premier League home games coming into this game tonight. Spurs, Burnley and Wolves, the 3 teams with the same or less wins at home, and only only Wolves have picked up less points at home this season than West Ham coming into this one. 2 wins and a draw and 7 defeats, which is again only worsened by Wolves' record on their home patch. 7 defeats at home for West Ham. Something they're desperate to improve. They've actually drawn more games away from home, only 1 away win, but 4 points out of that total. 4 draws, out of that. It's not a bad return away from home, but it's been a problem at the London Stadium this season for West Ham. A problem they just haven't really been able to resolve. Could they be on the verge of resolving it tonight in this huge game? So far, as I said, looking pretty positive, although that cross from Souček was wayward. And I think for West Ham, and really it is all about that kind of momentum with this poor run. If they do get a win, you never know, it could inspire the players, it could really change the atmosphere at the club and really look on the up again. You gotta say, from a neutral's point of view and from the outside perspective, it's really been turgid for West Ham. It's been horrid football. It's been really poor performances, followed by really poor results. And gotta say, they're not in the position they're in because of a fluke. They're in the position they're in is because they haven't been good enough so far this season to be in a better position in the table. And in a Premier League that's been incredibly tight this year, further ahead of them, they haven't really been able to keep tabs on anybody else up there. Now they have Nottingham Forest, which is a major surprise considering where they were last season. They finished 7th in the Premier League last season, Nottingham Forest, on 65 points. As Hutchinson tries to work in behind there again, well beaten off it as Dominguez again tried to help out, wins the throw-in. But after 20 games this season, Forest have had 18 points. They're averaging around 35 points, 36 points, which is almost half of their tally last season, which is an incredible drop-off. An incredible drop-off as bundled over there by Tati Castellanos was Milenkovic, winning a Forest free kick. Forest's away form this season hasn't been awful, but it's not been anywhere near the levels of last season, which is not surprising. 2 wins, 2 draws and 6 defeats from their 10 away games this season. In terms of their home form, they've also been horrid away at home as well. As Hutchinson whips a ball in, bouncing around, and Jared Bowen was able to scramble away as he was backtracking, but not many were throwing their bodies at it on that occasion. Hudson-Odoi couldn't progress any further. Nice challenge there by Walker-Peters, out for the throw. Nottingham Forest need to give themselves something to believe in so far tonight. Had that one big chance with Nico Williams, but they've not really done much in the final third since. And if West Ham get the half-time leading by a goal to nil, just one big chance to remember defensively, that will breed immense amounts of confidence for West Ham and really put a damaging feeling on Nottingham Forest. So the next 7-8 minutes could be crucial. Scarge trying to play it down the left for Somerville, but actually caught by Ola Aina, excuse me. Ola Aina there, feeding that one back. Fernandez. Suchek. Now to Somerville. Nice little 1-2 as Somerville dispossessed there. Gibbs White now trying to find Igor Jesus. As Hutchinson, nice little layoff, finding Dominguez, who tried to poke it through there for Jesus, but again West Ham getting bodies on the line when they need to. Mavropanos. Out wide to Kyle Walker-Peters. Lays it off to Bowen. Just around about the halfway line here for West Ham, and certainly in no desperate need to throw themselves forward too much. They just need to manage this game, West Ham. Just keep compact, keep settled, and don't show too much to Nottingham Forest. You have that goal. Can afford to be a little bit more patient. Albeit a long, long way to go in this one, but patience could be really virtuitous and beneficial for West Ham as they win it back again with their patient press, and Paquetá nips it off his man, finds Fernandez, who tried to work it out to Castellanos out wide. Forest just about clear of their lines, and in the end that ball back to Matt Sells. It did catch the keeper's hands, but it could have went anywhere. Here's Gibbs White on the breakaway. Good challenge by Oliver Scarles, stopping Hutchinson, and he's trying to break away himself. Has a bit of sense and settled back to his midfielders. Paquetá now feeds it to Bowen. Options aplenty here. Bowen goes low towards Castellanos, blocked and cleared away as Bowen tries to recycle. As Suchek throws himself into the challenge and wins the throw-in. The crowd responding to what has been a very positive first half so far for West Ham. Here's Bowen again. Suchek. Bowen in a good chance. Looks for the angle. Couldn't get the shot off. Hutchinson strides away for the visitors. Here's Igor Jesus, who is well stopped. Well, has control of the ball. Wasn't going into a threatening position. Here's Ola Aina. Milenkovic to Nico Williams now. Right wide to Callum Hudson-Odoi. Chops onto his right foot. Hudson-Odoi will hit one and crashes off the crossbar. And the woodwork denying Nottingham Forest. Callum Hudson-Odoi from the edge of the area, striding onto his right foot, trying to curl it top corner. And it smashes off the top of the crossbar and over. And the woodwork denies Nottingham Forest. A really quality equaliser. Again, Areola was full stretch. This time he had no chance, and luckily the edge of his goal kept it out. Because it would have been some finish, and an unstoppable finish if it had a win in. It was just angled a little deeper and dropped a little quicker. Areola had no chance. They've had two really good sniffs at it, Nottingham Forest. Two really good opportunities. Neither of them taken. One saved by the goalkeeper and one hit the crossbar, but some positives at least for Nottingham Forest in this first half, but few and far between. What has been a pretty below average attacking performance for Nottingham Forest, and an average all round performance really. But very little threat. That's something that they'll need to try and resolve and figure out going into the second half. Dominguez does well to win it high up here. West Ham a little sloppy. Murillo back to Dominguez. Now finds Hudson-Odoi off the left channel. Back to Dominguez, squeezing West Ham in here. And to find a chance for, I think that was Ola Aina, who'd taken up a very central role there, the right back of Forest, and he wins a corner. It squeezed West Ham really kind of narrow there, Nottingham Forest, and penned them into their own 18-yard area. And we're still finding gaps in between. Ola with a nice run across and working it to find a corner for Forest. Right-footed delivery deep and caught by Alphonse Areola, who was under pressure and physical threat by his opponents, but came away with the ball with no worries at all. As he clears it long here, Areola, and that comes off a West Ham head in Jared Bowen. Last, they were unsure there, the officials, but the throw-in went the Forest's way. Last 30 seconds of the first half. We'll see how long will be added on at the end of this first period. A reminder for you, we've more Premier League action tomorrow as Manchester City take on Brighton at 7:30 tomorrow. We will have all the coverage of all 8 games that are taking place tomorrow night in the Premier League on LFS. Looking forward to all of that action for you here tomorrow evening. And then we round off the midweek with Arsenal hosting Liverpool on Thursday night. 1 minute to go at the end of the half. So not much. And Ola Aina will try a long throw, it seems, here for Forest. Very close to the corner flag. One last real chance for Forest to try and level before the break. Ola Aina's deep ball in. Bounces down and luckily falls to a West Ham player who can thump it away from danger. All the way back to Sells it goes. Anderson hoofs it forward. Looking for Ola Aina. Nicely cut out there again by Scarles. And maybe one last throw in. Hutchinson with seconds remaining in the first half. He will leave it to Ola Aina, who will throw it back to Hutchinson. Is there enough of a threat? There is. They're going to keep it moving. Here's Aina down the right side. Works it back as Dominguez's cross is deflected and away. And as it comes back out of the box, the referee blows the half-time whistle. A first half that has been so far so good for West Ham United. They open the scoring when Thomas Soucek's front post flick on found the head of Murillo, who couldn't keep it from going past his own goalkeeper and into the back of his own net. Forest have had chances from Nico Williams and Hudson-Odoi with great efforts. Areola denying one and the crossbar denying the other. It's a very tightly contested game in East London, and at half-time between the Premier League's, well, relegation-threatened teams, it's West Ham United 1, Nottingham Forest 0 at the break. Sure, one last kick. This is going to be it. This is the moment. Vicario kicks this. And Liverpool are there. Liverpool are Premier League champions. And there it comes. Crystal Palace, for the very first time in their history, are FA Cup winners. Oh, he's found the net. Oh, what a goal! Kvaratskhelia is through, wants to add a fourth, and does so. Ahmad, oh my goodness me! That is absolutely unbelievable. Rice again. Oh! You thought he couldn't beat the first one. He's gone and bettered it. Another whip ball in. The header is in by Virgil van Dijk. Incredible. welcome back to Premier League Live. Half-time at the London Stadium. It's West Ham United 1, Nottingham Forest 0. That Murillo own goal is the difference between the two sides at the break, and a massive difference it would be if it ended up this way, and certainly a swing in West Ham's favour in trying to stay in the Premier League. Of course, after today, still 17 games to go after today's match, but certainly it could swing in West Ham's favour, who've been down there for quite a few weeks now, certainly. But we'll see what comes of the second half there. Just to recap what's to come for you this midweek, we watched Bournemouth take on Spurs. Bournemouth beat Spurs earlier on in the season by 1-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Bournemouth are in a very tough position, and certainly on a bad run of form are the Cherries at this moment in time, and certainly haven't won a game in the Premier League since late October against Nottingham Forest, by the way. So a torrid run of form of 11 games without victory, and they face a Tottenham side who themselves need to push themselves up the table. They sit 13th, Spurs, so they've got some points to pick up as well. We'll see how that one battles out tomorrow. Brentford certainly living a lot higher in the table than a lot would have expected them this season. A lot expected them down where we're watching tonight, around the bottom of the table, but they're actually in 7th, Brentford, and they take on a side in Sunderland who've had an incredible season, but are actually below them on goal difference at the moment, both on 30 points, and they play tomorrow at the G-Tech Community Stadium. It's Crystal Palace taking on Aston Villa. Two sides over this season who have probably punched above their weight recently, but Aston Villa in third in the table. They're level on points with Manchester City going into tomorrow night's fixtures. Could theoretically finish the night above them and close the gap to Arsenal if they win away at Palace, and a Palace side who've slightly dropped off their best form. They're without victory in 7 games in all competitions since a 3-0 win against Shelbourne in the Conference League earlier in the season. They're down at the bottom end of the table, and 14th are Crystal Palace on 27. But again, how tight the Premier League is. There's just 4 points between 5th place and 14th place, so it is incredibly tight at the moment. But Palace face Villa tomorrow. Everton take on Wolves, a Wolves side looking to make it 3 results of big proportion on the bounce for them if they really can come away with victory tomorrow at Everton. It would certainly begin to believe there could be a turnaround happening for Wolves, who picked up 4 points in the last 2 games. That is double they had in their previous 18 games in the Premier League, and they face an Everton side who were fresh off a home defeat against Brentford, which ended a pretty decent run for Everton as of recent. It's a London derby in West London as Fulham take on Chelsea tomorrow at Craven Cottage, a Fulham side who thought they'd lost against Liverpool at the weekend but came back late with that Harrison Reed screamer to level things against the champions that finished 2-2 there. And they face a Chelsea side who at the moment who were in a little bit of limbo coming into this game before Callum McFarlane getting a draw away at Manchester City in his one and only game, it seems, as Chelsea interim after Enzo Maresca's departure last week. But Liam Rossinier has been announced as the man who is going to take charge of Chelsea until 2032, which is his contract, which is very bizarre, but that's a very Chelsea. And we'll see how they fare tomorrow night in that derby. It's Man City against Brighton as our feature game tomorrow night at the Etihad. Can Manchester City bounce back from that lead equalising goal that denied them 3 points against Chelsea at the weekend? And a Brighton side who really, at their expense, have been in a topsy-turvy run of form as of recent. They'd actually won just 1 of their last 7 games and were winless in 6 going into the weekend, but beating Burnley will give them confidence. The Manchester City side who need to close the gap to Arsenal. They certainly can't afford to drop more points in that title race. We watch then Burnley taking on Man United as well tomorrow night. Man United side who they've got their own managerial situation to sort out. Darren Fletcher is the interim boss at United after Ruben Amorim's departure just yesterday. They are just outside the top 5 on goal difference. They face a Burnley team here, second bottom and on a torrid run of form. Newcastle against Leeds as well as another game tomorrow. Two sides again in that mix of mid-table teams with a lot on the line. And Newcastle and Leeds face off tomorrow. Leeds side who are in a very good run of form, unbeaten in the last 7 Premier League games. But in terms of wins, just 2 wins in that run, 5 draws for Leeds in that run. We'll see how they do against a Newcastle side who could theoretically finish in the top 5 come tomorrow night's results end. And then we round off the midweek action as the champions Liverpool, who are not quite holding up to their champion status this season, and they face a team that could be the champions in 5 months' time, or in 4 months' time, when Arsenal, the league leaders, host Liverpool on Thursday night. They sit 6 points clear going into the week, but could that be cut or extended? We will see. Or even stay the same. We will see come Thursday evening. But before all that, the second half of West Ham taking on Nottingham Forest at the London Stadium. It's 1-0 to the Hammers at the break. And we'll see how this one stretches out into the second half, which is on the way next. Welcome back to Premier League Live. Second half at the London Stadium on the way next. But a reminder for you that we do have that feature game tomorrow evening between Manchester City and Brighton. 2 games are kicking off at 8:15 tomorrow, but our feature game is 7:30 alongside 5 other 7:30 kickoffs. That was the feeling and that was the vibe we were going for, and that's the one we're going to watch tomorrow at 7:30. Looking forward to that one as well. But we've the second half here at the London Stadium, which I'm very looking forward to see which way this one ends up tonight. As I said, coming into the evening, much needed results for these two teams, and a win would be priceless right now. And certainly for West Ham United, more realistic than it is for the visitors, who are going to make a half-time change, it seems. Sean Dyche's Forest. It looks like Delaney Bakwa is going to be coming on for Forest. A reminder, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on post notifications. If you haven't done so already, that'd be greatly appreciated. And we thank you all for joining us for this one tonight. It's great to get the football back here in LFS, and we had our first live watch along on Sunday. It was great to have everybody's company in that one, and for tonight and all the way through. We've got so much to bring you for the rest of the season here in LFS, and certainly these types of fixtures well up on the list as we get back underway at the London Stadium. West Ham unchanged from their first half team, and why would you change a team that is winning and looks like they're performing a lot better than they have in recent weeks? And that's precisely why I would suspect Sean Dyche has made a change in his team. And Amari Hutchinson has made way for Delaney Bakwa on that right-hand side. Just that lack of cutting edge at in the final third from Nottingham Forest. They've just been a little bit toothless. Decent build-up, decent possession, but it's when they get into the final third they've struggled. That's a nice win back by Williams, but it's given away cheaply by Anderson. Nice little turn by Paquetá, who finds Matej Fernandez. Rolls it to Somerville, overlapping with Scarles. Back to Crescencio Somerville. West Ham looking to sustain the threat and manage the game like they did so well, I have to say, in that first half. I think at times it really could have got away from West Ham, but they managed it well right the way through. Even when Forest did pile on and try and apply pressure, they did well. As Souček finds Scarles, who tried to cross it in. Up and away. The edge of the area by Elliot Anderson. There's a Forest player down. Referee says play on. Does Forest have a little bit of a breakaway chance here? Jesus up against Todibo. Back to Bakwa. Inside to Gibbs-White. Now Jesus. Bakwa. Going for the early cross, blocked and away by Mavropanos and brought down for Bowen. Looking for an outlet. Not got many options there, Jared Bowen, as he goes for the little 1-2 with Lucas Paquetá. Out wide now to Somerville. Now into the path of Bowen. Nice from West Ham this. Jared Bowen couldn't keep the shot down. Decent move. All started with Jared Bowen and almost could have finished with him too in a perfect way. Beautiful football in between the lines. Nice 1-2 between him and Paquetá initially. Laid it out wide to Somerville. And Bowen just continued his run through the middle, finding the space in front of him open up and just had a go. That one, certainly not one of his best efforts. Certainly more intention from West Ham to continue attacking and not rest on their laurels of a 1-0 lead. I actually have no idea what that phrase means or why it means what it means, but it's correct in the context, but I just have no idea where that comes from. Rest on their laurels. Anyway, not important. Mavropanos. Paquetá. Now out wide to Walker-Peters. Try to work it back inside. Nicely cut out though by Forest. Jesus finding it back to Dominguez. Into the path of Gibbs-White. He very vertically finds it back to his centre-back, Milenkovic. Now Williams. To Callum Hudson-Odoi. Works it back inside. Here's Nico Williams trying to work his way through. And then Dominguez has a go. Wanted a deflection. Wanted handball as well there, Nicolas Dominguez. I don't think the referee really knows what happened there, despite having a good view of it. It looks like VAR might have to get involved here. But see this again. So Nico Williams goes down. That's not a foul. And then as he tries to clear it away, Mavropanos, does it skim off his arm? I mean, if it does, that's terrible. That's certainly not a handball, I would say. I mean, Nicolas Dominguez is claiming it. Oh, it might come off. Does come off Souček? I'm not too sure. Even from the replay, I criticised the referee there for really not knowing what happened. Even on the replay, it's hard to see. It's a weird angle to look at it. Strange. And the VAR, Neil Davis, has said play on, because really you can't definitively say what actually happened there, whether it come off a hand or an arm or not. If it did, it didn't look unnatural to me. And referee Tony Harrington and VAR Neil Davis is probably confused as the rest of us watching this. But there's a little bit better from Forest, and certainly from Nico Williams, making that underlapping run. Scards battling well initially, gives it away cheaply to Ola Aina. Now a little bit of space as Bakwa tried to cut back. Nicely closed out by Paquetá. Nice Somerville on the breakaway. Fending off a challenge. Somerville committing bodies and not going down as he does get it to Castellanos. Now Walker-Peters in the box. Will he have a go? He will. Falls to Somerville, who absolutely rifles it home. And West Ham United double their lead, and probably deservedly so. Crysencio Somerville created that moment all on his own. It was only going to be him that was going to finish it. Nottingham Forest again punished for their mistakes and unable to keep the ball out of their own net again. Sean Dyche and his team have a mountain to climb, and it's a mountain that West Ham have built quite fantastically tonight. They've been much improved, and again it's Crysencio Somerville. Even the physicality, just to hold off a couple of challenges. He goes down, but he still finds the ball to Castellanos. They keep it alive well. Walker-Peters here has the space and time. It's poor from Forest. I mean, they're a little standoffish, really. Walker-Peters is allowed to cut inside to have a go. The shot deflects into the path of Somerville, who does incredibly to take it down and strike it so cleanly, so accurately into the ground and into the back of the net. Beautiful goal, and the relief from Nuno Espirito Santo, who is really happy with that, although I don't know if the VAR want to ruin the mood here. I don't think the referee will be very popular if this gets ruled out. But we'll see what Tony Harrington and Neil Davis have to say. They're checking for a possible offside. And it's no goal. Well, that is very interesting. I don't think anybody spotted that. I mean, fair play to the VAR, it's his job, but in no way did I think that was offside. But it is. It's back to 1-0. Well, it took long enough, and I had no qualms that it was going to be a goal until it was ruled out. We did get a glimpse of it. It looked like, I think, if I can remember correctly, Castellanos, when Somerville went down and played the ball to Castellanos, Castellanos was in an offside position in the build-up. But that was quite actually disheartening. I'm a neutral. It doesn't really matter what happens for me at the end of this game, but it was a really well-created goal for West Ham, and off the hook are Nottingham Forest. They got away with that. A really well-created goal and well finished by Crescencio Somerville, but the offside trap comes back to haunt them, and VAR certainly not very popular, albeit correct in the decision, but West Ham fans won't see it that way. Back to 1-0. As Forest working it down the right hand side, and Somerville back to defensive duties. Yeah, it was Castellanos who was offside. Not by major lengths, but he was off in the modern footballing measurements. He was a good half a yard offside, which is enough for the goal to be ruled out. You could feel the relief around the London Stadium. You felt the relief from Nuno Espirito Santo and the players when that second goal went in. Oh, an awkward bit of defending here for West Ham. Nico Williams deflected behind for the corner off Walker Peters. That long throw in just bounced in the box and no one really attacked it. If they did attack it, it wasn't successful. And it bounced down and found Nico Williams round the back, and Kyle Walker Peters luckily marking him there for West Ham to put it behind for the corner. Well, this is the spell that Forest need to take advantage. Elliot Anderson's corner, delivered in and looping in. They needed to take advantage and they have. And Nottingham Forest are back level. Swings and roundabouts in Premier League football. 2 minutes ago, West Ham were 2-0 up. And now in minute 55, Nuno Espirito Santo shakes his head as his former club equalise. West Ham 1, Nottingham Forest 1. And that is Premier League football in a nutshell. It was at this corner flag, at this end of the field, that West Ham took the lead from a corner in the first half. Well, Forest, with a flick on of their own at the front post of Nicolas Dominguez, loops up and drops in the net at the back post. Whether it took a deflection or not, it didn't actually. It did come off Nicolas Dominguez and dropped in at the back post. Walker Peters could do nothing about that. And that is the way the momentum swings. 1-1. And really, that is heartbreaking for West Ham United. And now, they've got the momentum now, Forest. Can they really take full grasp of it, as Nico Williams couldn't keep that one in play? But that was the perfect moment for Forest to equalise when West Ham had just been denied a second goal by VAR. And you'd feel that, like deflating a lead balloon, it went really awkward and anxious again at the London Stadium. And in the end, the momentum swung even further in Forest's favour and finding them a leveller. Well, that is how harsh and how difficult Premier League football is and how close it can be. A set of key moments might look minuscule in isolation, but all combined together could make this game And this match, incredibly tight. If either one of these two teams can come away with 3 points here tonight, it would be huge. Their bids for Premier League survival. Free kick taken short. Gibbs White rolls it out, finds it out wide to Hudson-Odoi. Everybody back for West Ham. Edge of the box, this shot. Charged down, kept alive as it's a bit of ping pong. Cleared away. Bakwa trying to see it out for the throw in, and he does. Everybody was back for West Ham there, and probably too deep at their own box. Forest had a clean strike at the edge of the area. Could have went anywhere. Here's Dominguez. Now to Bakwa. Whips it in to the area, and Murillo was there, but he headed it straight at Alphonse Areola. West Ham need to really regroup here. Settle back down. As Forest, they're trying to take firm grip of this game now and try and take the lead, which would be a real stinger for the home team. Really an encapsulation of their season. Here's Bakwa up against Scarles down this right hand side. Bakwa takes the man one-on-one. Tries to drive back inside, and Scarles gets the block, but it goes behind for the corner. Forest with the set piece chance. Well, these two are the worst conceding from corners. It's no surprise that both goals they've conceded tonight have come from corners. And here comes another one for Forest. Left-footed delivery. Near post, cleared away. I think the referee's whistle went there. And he's given a free kick to West Ham. There must have been a foul in there somewhere. I mean, sometimes I think they've got spy glasses on. I don't know how he's seen a foul in there. And this is really how things can change from possibly being 2-0 up to peg back to 1-1. The fine margins of the top flight of English football and top level sport. Castellanos about a half a yard offside. He probably knew nothing about it. The ball wasn't meant to come to him. He didn't expect it to come to him, but it bounced in his direction. The flag didn't go up initially, and he played it on, and West Ham scored. Thought they were 2-0 up, and VAR were going to be the grand enemy to inform them that it was going to be disallowed, and then to concede a few minutes later is an even more of a disheartening and tough to take sort of situation as we hit the hour mark inside the London Stadium. But the game is all square and there to win for either team, as that's fantastic from Tati Castellanos, and they've won it back here, West Ham. Somerville, the crowd were really receptive to that challenge from Tati Castellanos. And that one too from Todibo, who left a lot in on Igor Jesus there. It's a free kick and a yellow card for the West Ham centre-back. I mean, he absolutely clattered the man. No doubt in anybody's mind there what was going to happen. And Jean-Claire Todibo with his fourth yellow card of the season into the referee's book. Forest made a change at half time. West Ham are going to make a change on the hour mark, and it looks like, well, one West Ham signing's made his debut tonight in Tati Castellanos. Another one's going to make one, and that's going to be Pablo Felipe, or Pablo as he's known. He's going to be coming off the bench for his West Ham debut here this evening. Not just yet though. Hudson-Odoi back to Elliot Anderson, looping into the area, up and away by Mavropanos. Not very far though, as Bakwa kept it alive. Back to Ola Aina. Bakwa, nice close control, works it out wide, just about finding Dominguez, who returns the favour to Bakwa. Tried to cross and blocked by Todibo, out for the throw. Forest in the ascendancy, West Ham on the back foot. And it's in these moments that you would feel the home crowd get more anxious, tentative, and more nail-biting in the biting cold air of East London. And the cold situation that could come. Ola Einid's deep, long ball from the throw-in is cleared away. And actually nicely taken down by Castellanos, who makes a horrible heavy touch. And it's going to be a free kick against him as he took out a man in the process of his heavy touch and tried to recover it. Free kick to Nottingham Forest. Before that though, West Ham are going to make that change. So Pablo is going to be coming on. One Brazilian for another, as Lucas Paquetá is going to be replaced, back from injury. And they're going to make a double substitution actually here, West Ham. They're also going to see the introduction of Ezra Myers, I believe it is, or Mayers, the 18-year-old, and he's going to be coming on for Ollie Scarles. Two academy graduates swapping places. Ezra Myers and Pablo, the West Ham debutant, who just signed at the start of the window just a few days ago. Forest with a free kick. Elliot Anderson to take. Deep to the back post. Murillo was the target, and last touch off a West Ham head in Todibo. Behind for the corner. And this will be corner number 3 for Nottingham Forest in the half. Corner number 5 in total for Forest. They've already been fruitful from one. Can they turn it around completely? Left-footed delivery. Oh, bobbling around and bobbled actually into the path of Areola. That could have went anywhere of two West Ham players. And they maybe had a little bit of luck there that it didn't fall to a white shirt. Otherwise it could have been much more heartbreaking. As West Ham struggling to break forward here. It was nicely cut out by Forest, but lost their rhythm a little bit here, West Ham. Forest have garnered that momentum of the equaliser. West Ham trying to wrestle for it back, not quite successfully. That's a lovely ball from the free kick, taken quickly. Williams, Hudson-Odoi, trying to return the favour to his full-back, but cut out this time by the defending Jared Bowen. As Walker Peters had nowhere to go. Out for the West Ham throw there. 25 minutes or so to go, plus additional time. West Ham 1, Nottingham Forest 1, and in the second half, Nottingham Forest's possession dominance has turned into stats dominance, shooting dominance, and certainly in the final third they've found a threat that they couldn't find in the first, as that's going to be a free kick to Nicolas Dominguez, who was brought down there by Soucek. A little bit of frustration from West Ham at the minute. West Ham have only had one shot in the second half. They've only had one shot on target all night. Interestingly, I don't think that was the goal. Because it was an own goal. Anyway, free kick here to Nottingham Forest. Looks like Elliot Anderson and Callum Hudson-Odoi were in conversation of that one. Will be Anderson it will take, but Hudson-Odoi is going to receive it right away down the left channel. Trying to beat past one in Somerville, but Matheus Fernandes was there as added cover, and necessary cover, as he put it out for the goal kick. Well, this is where those teams that are able to stay in the fight and able to stay in the league earn their money and earn their kind of rewards of trying to stay in the Premier League. It's who can outfight the other, who can outwork the other in the final 25 minutes to try and rescue what would be a incredibly huge win, but sometimes it really seems like West Ham are trying to fight a losing battle at times, in the last few minutes. Maybe just their frustration getting in the way of things. Nottingham Forest just now playing with a little bit more freedom. The fact that they found that leveller, which they certainly didn't have in the first half. They looked bogged down by pressure and all sorts of real issues that they just couldn't shake off in the first half, and certainly not in the final third. And they come out really refreshed in the second half, Forest, and looked a much more threatening and a much better team. The joys of the half-time team talk. Whether Sean Dyche said anything or whether it was tactical switches that really made the difference, or the fact that Bakwa came off the bench to make a difference, who knows. More of a direct runner than a skillful player from the wide, which Omari Hutchinson is. He can cut inside, he can kind of create those goals from wide positions, but more of a runner than anything else. Here is Jared Bowen breaking towards the box here for West Ham. A little bit of a threat from them as that shot was well blocked. Didn't get far off the foot of Bowen before it was blocked by Nico Williams. Throw in for the Hammers. I do believe if one of these two teams will win it, it'll come down to one big moment. Could they swing either way at the minute. That's a lovely turn by Mateus Fernandez, finding Crescencio Somerville, who was brought down. And no foul, said the referee. Waved it away as the counter-attack from Forest. Todibo not quite defending it well enough here. Showed too much of it to Igor Jesus. Well, that looked really strange. The crowd booing the officials. And Nuno Espirito Santo is as confused as the rest of us as to how that wasn't a foul. See it again. Yeah, Elliot Anderson, does he get anything on the ball? I mean, does Crescencio Somerville kind of throw himself to the ground a little bit? Possibly. Possibly. I don't think there's much of a touch from Elliot Anderson. I don't think he did much wrong there. And Nuno Espirito Santo gets himself a booking. Tony Harrington handing out the booking to the West Ham head coach for his response to his team not getting that free kick, but on further reflection I think the referee was correct in not giving it. It looked a little strange initially, but in the end when we saw the replay it looked a little bit like Crescencio Somerville threw himself to the ground a little bit there. Certainly used Elliot Anderson's contact to help him to the ground. Not say he was diving, because that's harsh. Cleared away by West Ham here as Forest tried to apply pressure, but Castellanos initially looked like it was applying physical threat to Murillo, but he's given it away, and Murillo trying to go on a run himself here. Spun away from a man and couldn't feed it through in the end to Igor Jesus. That was nice play from the Forest centre-back. Still trying to make up for arrears for his earlier mistake in conceding the own goal. 20 minutes to go. West Ham 1, Nottingham Forest 1. Which way will the momentum swing in the final 20 minutes? Which team will come away with all three, or will they share the points? It could be crucial, whichever way this goes, to the team that ends up losing it, possibly. West Ham 1. The gap would be 1 point. If Forest were to win, the gap would be 7 points. Given away here to Pablo. West Ham have the chance with their debutant, who couldn't keep the shot down. Sloppy from Forest in the midfield, and Pablo wins it back. It's hanging on the back of Elliot Anderson, who was just brought down. Eased to the ground by Pablo. No foul. Just kind of tripped himself up there, Elliot Anderson, and then Pablo breaking away. Gets into the area, tiptoeing into the box, and as he has a shot. Wasn't a bad effort. Just couldn't keep the shot down. Other than that, it would have been a decent opportunity. As Nico Williams looked a little bit hobbly as he got back to his feet there, but goal kick in the end for Nottingham Forest. Threat evaded. As I was saying, a 7-point gap of Forest come away with all 3. They would go up to 21 points. They would be a point behind Leeds, a 2 behind Bournemouth, and 7 clear of West Ham, 9 clear of Burnley, and a complete 15 clear of Wolves, which would be immense in the relegation battle. Somerville. Dominguez with a shot there. Low and hard and right down the throat of Areola. It was Hudson-Odoi. Got the wrong team. Hudson-Odoi with a cut back, and Dominguez, edge of the D, fiercely trying to strike it past Areola, but in the end struck it right into the hands of the French goalkeeper. It's a real tussle at the moment as Souček wins a free kick off Igor Jesus. Some will go for you, some will go against you. That's the refereeing decisions tonight, and that decision from Tony Harrington to give the free kick. We got a bit of a sarcastic cheer from inside the crowd here at the London Stadium. Somerville has to work it back the way, all the way back to Areola. Peters flipping it on to Souček. Bowen. Nice play here by West Ham. Souček trying to find Bowen, who's worked in behind, rolled it across, and arriving was Castellanos, but there ahead of him was Olaina, who put it behind for the corner. Again, if West Ham are going to get back into this game, it's going to be Souček or Bowen that helps them on their way to that. 2 of their top players, and they were both involved in that attacking move. And Bowen played it across, looking for Castellanos, who just couldn't get anywhere near it before Olaina cleared his lines. Corner to West Ham. Jared Bowen looks like is over there to take it. So we have a full camera shot of the 6-yard box, which is highly congested. Bowen's delivery. Up and came off ahead of a West Ham player. Goal kick. Wasn't too sure myself, to be honest, but the officials have given a goal kick. Just over 15 minutes to go. The final quarter of an hour here at the London Stadium. And as it stands, the gap would stay to 4 points. They would both gain a point, but they would stay 4 points apart, these two, if the game ended as it is. West Ham would be able to really push themselves a little bit further away from Burnley and Wolves, and close the gap slightly on those above them, but it's Forest that matters most, and that gap to Forest would stay the same as it stands. Whip ball towards the area, dealt with by the Forest defence. Seems like in the last 5 minutes West Ham have really retaken a little bit of grip in this game and found 1 or 2 opportunities of their own, but they've given it away cheaply there. Gibbs-White into the path of Hudson-Odoi. Nice step in by Walker-Peters, and first time ball there by I think that was Myers, sorry. It was Castellanos again. Looks a little out of sorts, but it works it back to Walker-Peters, who then finds Pablo. Walker-Peters again across and forced into the save, and another save by Matt Sells as the rebound off Castellanos was into the hands of the Forest goalkeeper. So again, beautiful ball by Bowen, finds Castellanos, gives it away, and then Walker-Peters, intense and breaking up the field, lays it out wide to Pablo, going for the return ball, and then has a strike, Walker-Peters. Good save by Sells, and then the rebound hit by Castellanos, who forces another save out of Matt Sells. The 2 debutants for West Ham involved in that move and trying to get them back in front. Walker-Peters with the eventual effort. Well, this is a stat Forest will not want to hear. Since the return to the Premier League in 2022, 9 of the 11 goals that Nottingham Forest have conceded against West Ham have come in the final 20 minutes of games. That was before this game, of course, with each of the last 5 before this game coming in the final 10 minutes. Could it be that late goals from the Hammers are able to find a way past Nottingham Forest this time? They needed 3 late goals to beat them in the reverse fixture earlier in the season to win 3-0. They only need 1 here to try and retake the lead. Deep ball by Somerville from the corner. Castellanos was the target, but cleared away. Mayers keeps it alive, but Forest are able to scramble it clear again. And it's out for the throw into West Ham off Mateus Fernandez. Mateus Fernandez solid in winning that throw. It looks like West Ham are going to make another change in a minute. Just looking at the bench, maybe Freddie Potts it looks like it's going to be coming on for West Ham. As Nico Williams under pressure, just about works it off Pablo to win the throw-in. I keep wanting to call him Felipe, but he goes as Pablo. Nice little back heel there by Igor Jesus. Gibbs White's ball just a little bit loose towards Bakwa, who couldn't take control of it. And again, Nottingham Forest unable to keep a hold of the ball. 12 shots apiece. 3 big saves apiece. 5 corners apiece. Possessions 55 to 45 in Forest's favour. 3 shots of West Ham on target to Forest 4. Not much between them. And it's 1-1. This will come down. A moment of magic, a mistake, or it will stay the same. One of those 3. Walker Peters, held up by Bowen. He's a man who can create magic. Works it back to Pablo. Now Walker Peters trying to break through. Held up by Bowen. He tries to spin away. Brought down. No foul again, says Tony Harrington. As Forest try and break down the left. Well cut away from Igor Jesus by Mavropanos. Jesus trying to return the favour with that challenge. And Nico Williams has to slide it out for a throw in to West Ham. They're looking to make this substitution. Substitution they will make. Freddie Potts is coming on. And Mateus Fernandez is going to be coming off. So a straight swap in midfield for Nuno's team. And entering the final 10 minutes at the London Stadium. Another West Ham youngster looking to try and make an impact here for the Hammers. Walker Peters to take this throw. Couldn't be held up by Pablo there. And Igor Jesus, that looked like handball, but nothing given there again as Hudson-Odoi breaks away. Intercepted beautifully by Myers and has found Jared Bowen in behind. And a last-ditch challenge, I think, from Murillo. Puts it behind for the corner. What a ball. I don't think it was intentional. No offence to the young West Ham substitute Ezra Myers, but that ball turned into a beautiful little pass to Jared Bowen. And in behind Nico Williams and coming across was Murillo. Maybe took a little bit too much time on it, Jared Bowen. And Nuno, frustrated that his star man couldn't take the chance. Corner to West Ham, which Bowen delivers. Up and away. As nicely brought back by Castellanos. Whipped in by Myers, bouncing away as Soucek to Bowen, who couldn't get it on target. He's getting in the right areas. He's not getting it into the back of the net, which Jared Bowen doesn't need to be told where the back of the net is. But tonight, he needs a little bit of a helping hand, because a lot of his shots have been a little bit wayward. He did score in West Ham's last home game in the Premier League against Brighton in a 2-2 draw. Actually, his last 2 West Ham goals have come at the London Stadium. That 2-2 draw with Brighton and the 3-2 defeat at home to Aston Villa. And last time Jared Bowen scored against Nottingham Forest was in the 3-0 win for West Ham back in August. He scored the first of the 3 late goals. The first came in the 84th minute. Lucas Paquetá from a penalty spot in the 88th made it 2-0, and then Callum Wilson, who's not here tonight or in the squad, in the 91st minute made it 3-0 and sealed the deal in a game which Nottingham Forest actually dominated and were the better team. West Ham on the day were more clinical in the end. Ended up with the 3 points. What way will it swing this time? Elliot Anderson, Nico Williams, out wide to Hudson-Odoi. Back to Williams. Looks for the cross, right-footed. Bounce around back with left it. Gibbs-White couldn't get on the end of it. And it's cleared away by West Ham. West Ham have had a good few moments of attacking. Is it Nottingham Forest's turn again? Seems like it might be. This game's ebbed and flowed right the way through. Really, a fair result would be a draw, but neither side want to settle for that at the minute. Both want to go for the 3 points. And that's the right type of mentality if they want to try and stay in the division, as Nico Williams goes down under a challenge from Pablo. That's going to be a free kick to Forest, around about the edge of the area. It is wide on the left, but it's still a promising position to try and whip in a set piece. And with the clock ticking down in the 84th minute, if there's a goal here, it would be hard to try and respond. Long way to go, though. Elliot Anderson over the free kick. Could this be a huge moment for Nottingham Forest? Elliot Anderson, right-footed, it's deep. It's up in the air and palmed away. Areola, who got back to his feet, but took a few seconds. West Ham cleared it away from danger, but Gibbs-White's in pain, as is a West Ham player. To Debo, maybe they're looking for a penalty here, possibly VAR. Does he collide with Gibbs-White here, Areola, and trying to go for the ball? Oh, he does catch the face of Gibbs-White, but is he going for the ball? That's a grey area, that one. I mean, he is going for the ball. The ball just leaves the area. Yeah, he does catch him. He's going for the ball, and they are checking at VAR. VAR have already stung West Ham hearts already tonight in disallowing that 2-0 goal. And now it will be an on-field review. Neil Davis says to Tony Harrington to go to the monitor and check it. Sean Dyche, you know what way he thinks. He thinks it's a penalty. And I'm sure Nuno will be the exact opposite, but Areola seemed a little confused when it was announced that the referee would go to the monitor. Let's see what Tony Harrington has to say then. I'm not too sure whether I would see this as a penalty, because Areola's going for the ball, but I mean, it doesn't give him an excuse to whack an opposition player in the head. It's one of those. I mean, he does whack him in the face. It's reckless, I'd have to say, from Alphonse Areola, but again, you can see the ball in the vicinity of where he's trying to punch. I mean, it's one of those where you're kind of like, if it goes for you, you're delighted, but if it goes against you, you're furious. And it could come down to what the referee thinks here, and as it would do. Tony Harrington is going to make the call here, and let's have a listen to what the referee has to say. Makes the signal. After review. The goalkeeper fouls Nottingham Forest number 10, and his final decision is penalty to Nottingham Forest. Areola incessantly arguing with the referee as soon as that call is made. Nuno Espirito Santo can't bear to watch. Vast majority of the home fans that are here inside the London Stadium can't bear to watch. And will this be another disappointing outcome for West Ham United? Areola, you can see why he's frustrated. Jared Bowen sharing his frustrations with the referee as the West Ham captain. But the decision's been made, and it is a Nottingham Forest penalty. And this is what it comes down to. Again, it's one of those ones, can be given it, can be not be given it, could go either way. But in the end, Areola does punch Morgan Gibbs-White. Whether he means to or not is irrelevant. It's reckless, and that's the way the referee's seen it. And Morgan Gibbs-White might get his chance of revenge here. He's the one that's going to take the penalty against Alphonse Areola, who committed the challenge. Well, this would be one turn-up for the books and events. They hang on the edge of their seats, hoping their goalkeeper can save them. But can Gibbs-White turn the tables on West Ham from the penalty spots? Gibbs-White against Areola. Morgan Gibbs-White scores! And Nottingham Forest take the lead for the first time on the night in the 89th minute. West Ham United have thrown it away again, and it is getting more turbulent for West Ham United as the games go on. This way, a new way to lose it, and I think those fans are going to get out of the rain because they know it's over. I think Nuno knew it was over when the referee went to the monitor. You can see it on his face. But what it means for Nottingham Forest is if they win this game, they will go 7 points clear of the drop zone. And West Ham would have a gaping hole in front of them to try and make up, and a gap that would seem, based on their recent form, insurmountable. It is a damning result it would be for West Ham, and a delightful result for Nottingham Forest. How this game has swung from one extreme to another, from West Ham possibly being 2-0 up to now 2-1 down with mere minutes to go. West Ham 1, Nottingham Forest 2, and that is as painful as it gets for the home fans and the home players. And now it's all about hanging on to this for Forest. They've conceded the most goals in the final 15 minutes of Premier League games this season of any Premier League side. But they're going to need to hang on here if they want to take all 3 points. West Ham are going to have to inflict regular occurrences against Forest once again if they're going to try and get something. 7 minutes to try and do it though. That is a huge spell of time. It will be defence v attack now. Forest will try and hang on for the result. West Ham will throw everything they have at it to keep it and try and rescue a point from this. Here's Myers, deep the ball into the box. Pablo was there, away at the back post, and Hudson-Odoi couldn't keep it in play. It's out for the West Ham throw, which they're very impatient. They want to get it going quickly. Nuno Espirito Santo. When it rains, it pours. The old saying. Well, it is pouring down on the London Stadium, literally and figuratively, on West Ham at the moment. They would be 7 adrift, and they would be looking down the barrel of the second tier of English football once again. From the heady heights of European champions to the Championship. That is what is becoming more realistic by the day for West Ham and by the game. For Nottingham Forest, they spent many a year in the EFL, in League One and in the Championship trying to get back to the Premier League, and they're not willing to give it up. They've fought in these relegation battles before, certainly in the last few years. Last season was a nice summer break away from it all. they're back to the realism of relegation battles, and Forest and Sean Dyche certainly have experience at that. And at the minute, that experience might just be showing itself. 5 minutes to go. Well, it took a long time for that throw in for West Ham. In the end, they can't keep the ball. Now Forest with real freedom. Dominguez trying to play it through to Igor Jesus, as Todibo gets his feet in order and plays it back to his goalkeeper. Here's Freddie Potts, who we've barely mentioned since he came onto the pitch just 10 minutes ago. Just the way this game has swung again. Todibo, Myers, Todibo just about keeping it. Pings it forward, but again an aimless ball that is dispossessed by Dominguez and hooked away by Nottingham Forest. Anywhere will do for them at the minute. Doesn't matter where they pump it as long as it's away from their goal. And the clock ticks down minute by minute. 4 minutes to go. Time disappearing away at a rate of knots for West Ham United. Free kick for West Ham, taken quickly by Souček. They just keep it moving, really. Todibo pumps it towards the area, up and away at the back post by a Forest defender. I think that might be Nico Williams, was it? It was, and he's won his side a free kick. And it's going to be a yellow card as well here for Kyle Walker-Peters. So, from bad to worse for West Ham there again. Yeah. It's a poor foul to make. Poor challenge by Kyle Walker-Peters. Second yellow card of the season for the West Ham fullback. And a jubilant away cohort inside the London Stadium. There's barely a Claret fan and a Hammers fan in the scene. I mean, the most of them looking on in despair at what they've witnessed with their team over the last 21 games. I'm wondering where did it all go wrong. I mean, they've still got 17 games after this to try and fix it, but there's a lot of fixing to do. Even Bob the Builder would struggle with this fixing, because West Ham have put themselves in a really tough position. And we talked about it over the last few seasons, how the teams that have come up look like they've gone right back down, and how teams that really were in that 15, 16, 17 positions for the last few seasons have maybe taken for granted that the newly promoted sides were poor and that they were always going to be better than them. Maybe West Ham, Wolves possibly, victims of being too complacent and too comfortable in the Premier League and finding themselves in shocking positions at this point of the season compared to where they probably would have expected to be at the start of the campaign. And what's next for West Ham? Because it looks like this winless run's going to continue. 9 could turn to 10, could turn even more. I've got QPR in the FA Cup at the weekend and a London derby, albeit Premier League Championship at the London Stadium. That's on Sunday. And then they've another London derby, a trip to Spurs next weekend, before they face Sunderland, Chelsea and then Burnley to start February. So some tough fixtures in there for West Ham. For Nottingham Forest, well, this could be the end of their 4-game losing streak. A win that would be crucial for them in the Premier League and massive for their survival hopes. They head to Wrexham in the Championship in the FA Cup on Friday night, so the quick turnaround for Forest. We'll watch them here on Friday night for that game. Then they host Arsenal next weekend, where they return to Europa League action. They head to Braga, then Brentford, and then Ferencváros to round off January. In relegation battles we talk about, it's not about who you beat that's around the top of the table. It's about can you beat those in and around you. And Nottingham Forest would be on the verge of doing that, beating one of the teams that will be their fellow battlers. That will be a huge 3 points. Talk about 6-pointers. This is a 7-pointer. And that's what the gap would be right now. Time seemingly up. 7 minutes gone of the 7 added. But West Ham desperate now. They've really created very little. Freddie Potts, deep ball into the area. Walker Peters tries to keep it alive, but again, Forest can clear it. And now they've got a bit of a counter on themselves. And Igor Jesus is going to try and run it to the corner flag as best as he can. Doesn't get very far with that, but the time is no more. Nottingham Forest have come from 1-0 down in the first half and at half-time to a second-half comeback to expel more misery and dismay upon West Ham United. It was they who took the lead through a bit of misery for Nottingham Forest, really, when Murillo put into his own net to give the Hammers an unlikely opening goal. They looked good for it at half-time, West Ham, but in the second, it looked like they really didn't come out of the dressing room. Forest took firm grip of the game. They come out looking much more threatening, much more on the front foot. And when Dominguez found the net to level from his looping header from a corner, it really swung things in Forest's favour. In the end, it was a late penalty decision that some will call controversial, and fans across the Premier League will debate about for days to come, but in the end, the decision was probably a fair one to give a penalty, and coolly slotted by Morgan Gibbs-White to make sure it was going to be delight for the tricky trees who've come to East London and again capitalised upon West Ham's poor run of form and their mistakes, and in the end get a massive 3 points that could really turn the tables in the Premier League relegation battle. Final score at the London Stadium, it is finished West Ham United 1, Nottingham Forest 2. And that's only the first game of this midweek in the Premier League. West Ham beaten by 2-1 by Nottingham Forest. And Morgan Gibbs-White, as I said, the key goal of the game. 8 games coming up tomorrow for you. Our feature game sees Manchester City take on Brighton as City look to close the gap to Arsenal, the league leaders, before they play on Thursday. And a Brighton side who look to push themselves further up the table. They're in that incredibly big cohort of teams in the middle of the table. Can they break apart from that and chase Europe under their manager Fabian Hurtzler? We will see. That's tomorrow at 7:30. But before we leave you tonight, we have to show you what that means for the Premier League table, because it is significant, that result between West Ham and Nottingham Forest, because it does not only make it a good reading for Nottingham Forest, certainly better reading from when they started the night, and worse reading for West Ham. This is the bottom of the table. Wolves sit now at total, quite incredibly, it should be updated, but it hasn't updated. I'd love to know why that is, but it should be the bottom of the table. There we go. So, Wolves now sit a total of 15 points adrift, but they should and probably feel that their fate was sealed a lot earlier than this. Burnley on 12 points. They are 9 adrift, so that looks even trickier for them. But they can go above West Ham if they beat Man United tomorrow night, but that looks as unlikely as anything else in the Premier League this season. West Ham now sit 7 adrift of safety when it could have been as low as 1, and it was as low as 1 on the night when they took the lead. But ultimately, it ends a 4-game losing streak for Nottingham Forest that sees them go 7 points clear away from the relegation zone on 21 points, and within touching distance of those above them in Leeds and Bournemouth, who've had a little bit of a tough spell. Leeds actually on an unbeaten run, but a lot more draws than they would have liked has them in this position, and then a little bit of gap above them. So it really looks like the bottom 3, very much now after tonight's result, look like it might be the bottom 3 come 38 games gone in the Premier League this season, but a long way to go to see if it does turn out that way. But it is a massive step in the right direction for Nottingham Forest. Right, quick reminder that we do have 2 more games to come for you this midweek. Man City taking on Brighton is tomorrow at 7:30, and we round off our midweek action as Arsenal take on Liverpool on Thursday night. Also on top of that, in this incredible run of games back to back, we have FA Cup action as well this weekend. We start on Friday night as Wrexham of the Championship host Nottingham Forest, who we watched tonight beat West Ham. That's on Friday night, followed all the way through to Monday night when Liverpool host Barnsley at Anfield, and the 4th round draw as well. So much to keep you up to date with across LFS this week and next, and so much to look forward to in both the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup semi-finals next week as well. But the Premier League takes centre stage, and tonight it's Nottingham Forest that have pushed themselves away from the relegation zone. But for West Ham, they found a new way to lose, and certainly a new miserable way to end the night at the London Stadium. Good night.